Welcome to another episode of Talking with WIT, Kevin, and Son, and the people you should know. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Through the power of our story, our mission is to uplift through your voice, inspire you, share stories and experiences and perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is very simple: hope, HOPE, helping other people every day. Give it some thought. Whenever your objective, successful people create a framework around their day-to-day lives that enhance their lives, and sometimes they pour into others. This podcast will reveal the secrets to a highly effective life and a random act of kindness and a story that needs to be told. Kindness is an act of service that does not need to be complex. It could be as easy as holding the door open for someone, checking in on a friend just because, or turning a wrong into a right. Today's guest will share why he turned a 10-year wrong into a moment that made a 10-year wrong right. Today's guest is a personal friend. For most, he's an everyday guy, local businessman here in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. Like I said, he turned a 10-year wrong into a right. We all know the story of the 2014 Boston Marathon. If you don't, say Boston Strong. And most of us will remember the attack on humanity. For me, it was one of those days that the world stood still. My better half was also had a friend in that race and was 2 blocks away from the bombing itself in Boston. My guest not only talks about the bombing, but will also talk about an athlete that was robbed of her own glory as well as her ongoing story. She was denied of the $75,000 first place prize finish money, plus the $25,000 bonus for setting a new course record. That is, today, she has never been paid by the Boston Athletic Association the winner's share because the person that actually finished first was disqualified for a questionable drug test. Today, we will learn the story of how she never got paid. We will also tell the story, and if you stay with us long enough, you would also find out why a random act of kindness and a total stranger that these two people, to my knowledge, have never met, has turned a 10-year wrong into a right. Let me welcome my hero, which I happen to call a friend, Mr. Doug Geyer, to our show. Doug, how you doing, buddy?
Kevin, I'm doing great. Beautiful Monday morning.
It is a beautiful Monday morning. I know our guests don't know a lot about you, and that I probably left them hanging and trying to figure out what this 10-year wrong to a right is. But first of all, I want to do something personal for your family because you are such a wonderful human being. You have 2 sons, you have a beautiful wife, Tope. You are surrounded every single day by people that admire you and people that you admire. I know there's a picture overhead. You were telling me about the story of this race. Can you remind me real quick, the picture to your right, what that picture is of?
That is Billy Mills. Billy Mills was the 10,000 meter race winner in the 64 Olympics in Tokyo. And he's a Native American, one of my many heroes growing up, where he came out of nowhere to beat the world record holder and the second place or the perceived second place finisher in the last lap, even after getting bumped twice and then pushing him with the elbows. And here he comes, full sprint, last 200 meters. It's an awesome story. And he's picked to finish 28th, 29th, barely getting the final, gets in the final, and just has a personal best by 6-7 minutes to win the gold medal for USA. So a great story. If you haven't ever heard of Billy Mills, just Google him and you'll see the last 2 laps of that race. And that's all you have to see and listen to those announcers go crazy.
All right, going crazy. The reason why I wanted to open up with that story, because I wanted the people that were looking at this podcast on RMK Productions and Network on YouTube to see the enthusiasm that Doug has when his eyes light up and he talks about humanity, the story. I always say be the reason for someone to smile, be the reason for someone to feel loved, and be the reason for someone to feel the goodness in other people, and also be the reason that you still believe there's goodness in humanity. The reason why I'm doing this interview is because, Doug, you are that reason. And before we go on to find out exactly what this story is, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I want you to sit down and put a piece of paper, a pen to paper, and to your two sons, if this was a note that your sons discovered one day, and you would share with them the life lessons and what is good about humanity, and this was the last note that they ever had from you, what would you write? And by name to each son, what would you write to your two sons?
Well, I'll tell you, and they would tell you that Rex is 26 and Rainier is 27 years old. And since they were 8 years old, probably much like you as a dad, I've been peppering them with life lessons through text, email, notes on their bathroom window, wall, mirror. Even today, now that they're both successful businessmen, they're getting something from me that I think is of value to them, that I saw someone else say, do, or take a positive action to right or wrong, or to do something a little differently in business or in life or in sports, and how that can affect their life. So that's an ongoing. It's not one little letter or note to them. It's ongoing, and they haven't yet said, "Dad, enough." So it's something where I think they still see it as value, and of course, I always look at, like, Joe Montana's son doesn't think Joe Montana is the best quarterback ever because it's his dad. So it's his son. So my son's grown up when I coached him, even though I played at Boston College in football and I'd coach them in football, they wouldn't take the lessons I could give them because I'm their dad. And I don't really, they look at a dad where you don't really know it, but Coach Patch over here knows it. Coach Flick over here knows it. So, I would tell them what to do, and they would tell Rex and Rainier, and they do it because they came from someone else. But now that they've grown into great young men, they do take more advice and go, maybe there's something to Dad's notes and comments and advice.
All right. You are a college graduate of Boston, one of the Boston universities. You are.
Hey, oh, I thought you said Boston University. No.
No, I didn't say that. I said one of the Boston universities.
Right.
I don't want you all over me, but you're also an avid sports fan. You take good care of your mind and your body. You're a very successful businessman. Tell us a little bit about what you do here in Pennsylvania, and then I want to give a little bit of why we're talking about this story in the Boston Marathon 10 years later, and I open up as why this random act of kindness came out of nowhere. What happened? So, who is Doug Geyer?
Uh, I grew up in Philly, right outside of Philly, not in Philly, right outside. Went to St. Catherine's and Archbishop Carroll, then Boston College. I wanted to play sports, basketball, football, baseball, and by the time I'm junior in high school, I concentrated on football. And that led to a scholarship to Boston College to play for them. I was a quarterback. My junior at Boston College, there was this freshman that came in who was an amazing athlete. And we all thought, because he's not your prototypical 6'4" quarterback, we thought he was going to be a wide receiver, a defensive back. But by the fourth game of my junior year, he came in against the Penn State game and tore it up and went up and down the field with our offense. So that gentleman was Doug Flutie, and Doug took a really good team and made it an awesome team. And my senior year, I wasn't going to play. So before my senior year, I switched positions to the only position that a 6'4", 210 guy could potentially play, because we were set at tight end with two studs, was, hey, why don't you try defensive end? So you're going to have to gain some weight, which I did, drug-free. And I went back after spring ball, and I was the starter as a defensive end, one of the two DNs. We played a 5-2. And that transition was crazy in my eyes, but I had nowhere else to go. So I gave it my all. And my junior year, I started against Texas A&M as a quarterback. And then my senior year, I started against A&M down there in Texas, College Station, as a defensive end. And they knew it. So they came after me, and rightly so. And they thought I kind of knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was just reacting. And, as a defensive guy, you can get angry. As a quarterback, you got to keep your poise. You can't get angry. So, the flicking of the switch on defense worked to my advantage, and things worked out well. We had a really great senior season, went to the first bowl game in 40 years for Boston College. So it really, gave BC, our team, a new foundation to go forward. And BC has been a blessing for me ever since. I've been 40 years out, and me and my dad started a business right out of BC with my marketing degree, and he was selling data. So we started a company, a marketing agency, and grew that into what it's called BrandShare. BrandShare is the world's largest e-commerce media network, where we consolidated 600 different e-com retailers to form a media network. So the advertisers, the brands, every brand you see in a grocery store or drugstore could advertise with these e-com retailers. So that worked very, very well. We did that for 38 years, and we just sold that business about a year and a half ago to one of our largest competitors, friendly competitors, and they're taking it to new heights right now. And I stepped out as the CEO of BrandShare, and now I'm advising a variety of different, whether it's startups or fintechs or companies that I really think have a great service or great product, and great founders that are passionate about their product or service, and that is scalable.
All right. Loyal husband, loyal father, example of what true kindness is in our community. I'm going to give you a quote before I go into why we're here to tell the story. And I know that you did not want to have all this attention drawn to you, and I apologize, but I personally think this story needs to be told. If I were to read you, the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the greatest intentions. How does that quote land on you?
Well, I read that probably when I was 20 years old, and I wrote that down. It's on a Post-it note. It's been in my office ever since. And, I couldn't remember the exact words. So my quote from that quote was, the smallest act of kindness is better than the greatest of all intentions. So, and I have sent that to, of course, my boys, my two sons, I mean. And I look at that where, how many times have you wanted to, I'm going to donate to my neighbor's foundation, $100. Or I'm going to volunteer and give my time or my advice, my time, treasure, or my talent. And then you forgot, life gets in the way and you forgot. And then the event happens and you just forgot and you apologize. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to, smallest act of kindness. You say open the door for, a mom with a stroller. Of course you would. But how many kids or how many guys or how many gals you see that just open the door and walk through it, don't look behind them? That's a small act. And the greatest of all intention is, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but you never do it. And so let's concentrate on small steps, little steps, and do what you can while you can with your time, treasure, or talent, or all three.
Hey, Doug, aren't you a little curious about how I came up with this quote and how it attached to you?
I never told you about that quote, so yeah, I am very, very, very curious because that's my favorite.
You do know when I came to visit your office, I'm a detail-oriented person. All right. When we were talking, you wrote this down, or you said this, and when I left in the parking lot, I have a book of quotes, and when I look back over, I had this quote with your name along the side of it. You remember when I came to your office?
Sure.
So the reason why I thought this was fitting is because Carl Eller, the late Carl Eller, the owner of the Phoenix Cardinals, wrote a book. It says, without integrity, you have nothing. You have been the pillar of character, integrity. You have been a brick. You have offered kindness to me from the day one that we met. And then to hear this story, I am not surprised, and I don't think anyone will be surprised. I'm going to set this up and I'm going to let you knock this down. In 2014, a young lady, last name Jeptu, finished the Boston Marathon in first place, setting a course record. Behind her, there's a young lady, last name is Ba.
Correct.
I think I pronounced it right. Came in and also, yep, and she also came in and set a course record.
Mm-hmm.
The original Rita was originally disqualified for testing positive. And from there, I'm going to let Doug talk about the wrong from the right, because the way it looks for me, there was a $75,000 prize money that was given to Jeptu, and there was a $25,000 bonus that was given to her for setting the course record. 10 years removed, she had been disqualified, and the person that actually was crowned and robbed of her glory and her moment was never received that money. And ladies and gentlemen, the person I'm speaking to now, when we talk about random acts of kindness, when we talk about the smallest bit of kindness with the greatest intentions of how people say what they're going to do and never do it, this man has always been true to his word. Doug Geyer, ladies and gentlemen, had reached out to the Athletic Association of Boston and asked why this wrong was allowed to exist for 10 years. And the question for them that came back is said, if, they were still trying to collect the money from the original recipient, and they had to wait. And Doug just shook his head and said, not happening. This is not right. Out of his own pocket, at a part of his children's inheritance or part of his legacy, he dug deep into his pockets and he paid the $75,000. I don't know how you did it, why you did it, but if you can tell us that story and how it transpired, what motivated you behind that story, if you could just enlighten us. And I know it's hard to talk about something because you don't want this attention, but the reason why I'm bringing it to the world right now is because more people need to step out and help someone else, just because, not because of receiving the glory. It's because the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the greatest of attention. We all need to help someone. Doug, would you mind sharing the story and how this transpired?
You bet. And the story is not my story. It's Booza's story, Boozanesh Deba's story. She, like Kevin said, was the one that set a course record cleanly in 2014. This gal who finished first and stole that finishing first moment, breaking the tape, the crown ceremony that they do at the Boston Marathon, epic events that were taken away from the Booza for all the wrong reasons, because she was cheating, and BAA didn't find that out, Boston Athletic Association, until a year and a half afterwards. So they did the right thing, and this is not about BAA being a bad organization. They're world class. But they just, from my perspective, they just fumbled the ball a little bit here, and they need to pick it up and do the right thing. And there's plenty of opportunity to do that. They tried to, but they went their legal route versus my quote is the common sense route. Pay the real first place winner, not the second place finisher, the real first place finisher, and then try to claw back the funds from Jepto, who, if it takes another 8 years or 18 years, don't put the onus on the real first place winner who didn't cheat and who relies on these funds to fund her training, fund her family. Her husband is an amazing guy. He's driving an Uber to make ends meet for the 2 small children that the family now has. So bottom line, when I read that original article in April, the Boston Marathon is in April 15th, April 16th. So the Wall Street Journal wrote this article about this wrong. And another thing is, Booza didn't want this to come out. It was her friends in the Bronx. She lives in the Bronx in an apartment with her family, and her friends just couldn't believe that this was happening to her. And they see the financial struggles that family went through. So the friend contacted the Wall Street Journal and they wrote a story about her. So like, there's 4 million subscribers to the journal. I'm just one of them. And I read that and I was like, I'm going to ask that writer to see if she can connect me and Booza. She said, I can't do that, the writer, author, Rachel Bachman, but I can send you over to a friend. So she did, we connected, and I wrote him a note, but I also just looked up the BAA CEO and their COO and just wrote him a letter saying, hey, you know what? This doesn't seem like proper. Why don't you guys do this? Now it's a Friday. If you don't pay her by next Friday, I'm going to pay her. And then you can, claw the funds back, whether it's 2 years or 20 years, and then send them to me. But don't put the onus on Booza and her family anymore. And next Friday came and went, and they didn't respond. So I overnighted her a letter with the check. So I'm driving, I get a call from the Bronx, and it's her. And I pull over, and we had a nice, beautiful, no more than 5-minute chat. And you never heard, Kevin, more gratitude in a voice ever from a sweet, genuine, caring mom, professional athlete than I heard. I wish she was able to tell the BAA that. And I told the BAA that she should have been telling you this, not me. I don't know her, but you do. You have a nice relationship with her. So that was amazing. And then I of course, I get a lawyer letter from the BAA saying, hey, we're following the World Athletic Congress and the World Athletic Committee procedure for this. And I said, I get that, but it's been 8 years. And you know what? What happened to the Nike sponsorship for Booza? What happened to the other sponsorships that were sure to come? When she came in second? Second doesn't get you those top tier sponsorships. And that course record bonus, she didn't get that. So she set the course record, the best ever. It's amazing. But she's so nice and shy. She doesn't have an agent. She doesn't have a lawyer. She doesn't even have a coach anymore. So, and I'm none of those. So all I was trying to do was right or wrong, like you said. And there's no big hammer coming down from Booza's camp on the BAA over those last 8 years. It was just like, hey, is there any update? And they're like, hey, we're still trying, but no action. So one of the things where I went to school, Boston College, they teach and preach many things, but these are the top 2 from my perspective. Serve others. Men and women serving others. That's BC's mantra. 2, don't wait for the lawyer's okay to do the right thing. Just do it. And 3, take action today. Not tomorrow, not next week, next year. To right or wrong, take action today. And that's where I was challenging the BAA to do that. And they, again, great organization, but this situation is different. And Booza is made whole, and it's not between Booza and the BAA anymore. And guess what? She's now back in her home country training with a coach. Her family's still in the Bronx, and she's going to train there for 3-4 months because she can afford to now. And then she'll run in a Ethiopian marathon over there in January. And guess what? She has circled in April of 25. The Boston Marathon.
The Boston Marathon.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah, I'm trying not to tear up behind this conversation, and probably, I will tell you, I asked you last week if there was any way possible that I can get in touch with her because I wanted to bring her on with you because you guys had not formally met. So chances are that Good Morning America or Michael Strahan or one of those guys will probably make the connection and have you guys formally meet. I tried.
We will. We will. And I just couldn't swing it when she was in town and I was out of the country, and then vice versa. Now she's out. And so when she comes back, whether it's, Thanksgiving or whatever it may be, I'm driving up there. It's 2 hours away. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say before you said she had a coach, I would volunteer, wouldn't charge her for anything to coach her. But I'm happy to see that a wrong was made a right. I'm also happy to see that, I always say that education is not wasted on people that are not open to being educated, and Boston should be very proud of their son. Philadelphia should be very proud that you reside here and that you're spreading this act of kindness, and allowing us to be part of that shine, your optimism. And I will tell you, as a friend, I'm not surprised. And as a friend, I'm very proud of you, and I'll say that to you 1,000 times over. We're only as strong as our last no. And I'm glad that you were stronger than the no of the association of saying taking a 10-year wrong and making it right. Um, I'm curious about the shirt you're wearing. It says Healing Waters. Can you tell us about that? I'm just going because I'm trying not to get emotional. So this is my diversion from my heart.
Mhm. Yeah, Project Healing Waters is a organization that takes veterans, disabled veterans, PSTD veterans, veterans that need a break, um, and takes them out fly fishing, takes them out fishing. But this is particularly fly fishing, and a couple buddies of mine that are excellent fly fishermen do this. I just support. They do the heavy lifting. They're doing. Rich Burns and his crew do some amazing things. So I'm proud to wear the shirt, and my dad's a great veteran of the Marines from the Korean War and the Chosin Reservoir Battle. If you ever want to Google that, the Chosin Reservoir Battle, you will understand what a major battle is. When someone says they played football and it was a battle out there today, I always just shake my head and say, no, that wasn't a battle. That was a bar fight. The battle was in the European theater or in the mountains of North Korea. That was a battle. And my brother is a former Marine as well. So we do as much as we can to support those vets, and I'm proud of it.
All right. And I'm proud of you. And my hat goes off to um, every military serviceman, woman, or however you identify yourself. We thank you for your service, Doug. I thank you for this, but I'm not going to let you off easy. I've asked this question once, one other time, and this is part of the conversation when I'm talking to young people when they're trying to discover their why. And you probably already know this answer. Um, I always talk about being a star. And I always ask them, part about being a star is, why did God give you two arms, two hands, 10 fingers, two legs with feet and toes, one heart, one head, one brain?
I've never heard that question. Um, it's a human being that you just described. So be the best human you can possibly be, and not just for yourself, but certainly others. And that's what I would get out of that.
All right. And the reason why I asked that, because I work with a lot of young people and they're trying to find their why. And I said, you've seen that drawing of a man with his arms outstretched, his feet going east to west, and the head. If you would take and draw a line from the tip of his toe to his shoulders and then out to the tip of his hands on both sides into his toe, into his feet, it comes the star. So when I ask someone, are you prepared to be a star? You got to understand. So if you're, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, whatever you reach and whatever you touch, that's part of your creativity. When you go to embrace anything on everything, it could be a dream, it could be someone you love. That's where gratitude lies, with your left hand. The first step that you take each day leads you towards something. And that's what courage and bravery are two different conversations. When your feet are joined together, it allows you to stand on your purpose. So your left foot is where passion resides. Now I'm going to skip to the heart because I'm going to end up with there, because whatever is translated through the heart comes to the head. The top of your head or your brain, that's where passion and your love, the things that you desire the most, are the things that bring you the happiness. Now, when you come back to the heart is when you step out into the world and you're present and your attentions And what you did with this story is where optimism resides in your heart, and that is your shine. And I am so grateful to know you. I am so honored to be able to share your story. And I hope the people that are listening to this podcast will be also grateful and be intentional going forward. Don't talk about what you're doing. Allow what people talk about and to share what you have done in life. Be the example that you want your children to be. Doug, with that said, I am adding you to a very special list. All of my friends have a very high call to action. My friends are not the type of person that drive by an accident, which you'll exemplify today. They stop to help. And that's the reason why you know, you're part of that group that I say that are special people. I'm adding you to the list of people that I know that are living a highly successful life. You're one of the top 100 that I have. And thank you for allowing me this honor. So with that said, if you had to leave or a takeaway to this conversation to anyone that has always wanted to do something, but never did it because they didn't know how or couldn't find enough courage to do so, what would be your takeaway from this story?
That's a great question because this shouldn't have been a story, right? It should have been taken care of 8 years ago, but then it became a story. And the last thing I wanted was a story to mention my name. This is about Buza and her journey and her never whining or complaining and saying, why me? Always persevering and doing it the right way. So now that she's in her prime, 36 years old now, prime marathon age, she's got a lot of years left to be awesome, getting back to awesome. So that's why I say, she's circled that April 16th to 2025 for a comeback party. And that's a story. If she comes back and wins it, that's the ultimate story right there. And as this became a story and people were contacting me and just saying, hey, you know what? There's two things of the literally 1,000 different connections that were made there. And the two common themes, which were very cool to see, it's basically to answer your question, Kevin, is this story inspired me to do something today. And they didn't explain what they did, but they just said it inspired me to do something. And then the other common theme and derivative of this story is the moms and dads that read this story said, I shared this with my sons and daughters so they know when they see an opportunity to help someone else that they can and they will. And there's others like them doing it. So how great is that? That, a negative story, which turns into a positive for Buza, then it helps others and inspires others to do other things. And again, not just with their wallet, but with their time and with their talent, or both. So I'd take that back as like, that's the major positive for the peripheral, the sphere of influence that Buza brought up. So great stuff there.
You just created hope. And that's the reason why we do what we do. How do people get in touch with you if so desired?
Oh yeah, I'm an open book on LinkedIn. My email, my cell number is right there, but it's Doug at idronline.com. And I welcome any thoughts, ideas. We're literally, I'm reaching out to CMOs, chief marketing officers of Adidas and Nike and Saucony to see if they want to sponsor Buza, because she doesn't have any sponsors. So who wouldn't want to sponsor this comeback story? And it's going to happen. And sponsor her now, not when she's already back on top, but sponsor her now. And that might be a challenge for a big company to do, but I see that as a
You know
great
something?
opportunity for them.
I am going to do you a special favor. I am going to reach out to a personal friend of mine at Zero Shoes, Stephen Sashin, and I'm going to put him in touch with you.
Please,
I would
and
definitely do that.
I'll send a bio.
This will be in. And the reason why I say this, because this show, I think I said this in the health club. I started something I didn't know I started.
Hmm.
On August 4th of 2024 will be my third year of having this podcast, Talking with Kevin and Son.
Right.
I always say that my friends, they don't drive by an accident, they stop to help. I've had 5 people on my show that have been guests that I have asked if they had one ask, what would it be? I mean, if they had one dream, and 5 total strangers, well, actually 3, help 5 people have their dream come true. And most people live their whole life not having one dream come true. And then without me asking you, you already put it out there. Um, I'm going to shake the hand of a man that's going to be her sponsor next. And I will tell you, he has got a product that's going to lend itself and it's going to change the way that we wear footwear for the rest of our lives. And I will make sure that Stephen gets in touch with you.
Awesome. Let's connect.
All
Great,
right.
great talking to you, Kevin. You're a good
And
man. I love what you're doing, and you got to keep doing it.
thank you. Thank you. And maybe one day I'll get lucky enough and I get a sponsor one day to keep doing what I do. So, with that said, I want to thank you, Doug. I want to thank your family, both of your children, your lovely wife, Tope, for allowing me to take this time out of your busy schedule. I want to thank you for just being a good human being and being the rock star you are. I know you don't like the shine on you right now, but you deserve it. You're just that good, that type of person. I want to thank you how you helped me in my life. We don't have to go into detail, but I want to thank you. Without X's and O's, I would not have the endorsement of a family friend of yours. And I want to thank you for doing that because it made me feel good to have someone of that stature, coach, to write the forward of X's and O's for me. And to my listeners, I hope at some point that the conversation that we've had today has touched you in a way that you become the change that you want your children to see. So my grandfather always said, when you get to a point that you can help someone else, he said, reach one, teach one. And if you like what you heard, go to RMK Productions and the 10 Unite, RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page, subscribe and follow. Now, this is one of those things I don't ask much. Share this story. Matter of fact, when you get this story, share it with 10 friends and ask for 30 days for each one of those 10 friends to share it with 10 more friends. This is a story that needs to be told around the world. A random act of kindness, one wrong, turned into a right. The Doug Geyer story. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And with that said, we'll fade to black, and we're out.